Firstly, I just want to wish all the mothers in whatever context on my page, whoever's following me, whoever hears this, a very happy Mother's Day, I just want to take a bit of time to reflect. I remember when I was in active addiction and, it had got to a stage where I wasn't really seeing my children very often. There was no sort of regular pattern as to seeing them. Because initially I'd had my children full time, but then what had happened was that my addiction had got so chaotic that I made the decision to hand primary care, so not custody, but more of the primary care to their dad. Just because at that time, number one, he was the more stable parent, but number two, and if I'm going to be really honest, it was draining. It was very, very draining to have my kids around. It was almost like, I was going to say I feel ashamed to say it, but it saddens me to say that I got to that stage. But it is what it is, so I've got to admit it. But, it felt like at that time that my children were a chore, Active addiction is very draining in that, when you're drinking, you're hardly sleeping. Or when I'm talking alcohol because I am an alcoholic, So that is my lived experience. But that in itself is draining because you hardly sleep. I was hardly eating as well. So I didn't have a lot of energy. And all the energy you do have, you use to try to get the substance and try to reach this place of numbness and peace and calm. And, all your energy goes into that. And so not only do you forget to look after yourself, but, you don't have the ability to look after anything around you. And because I was so drained, I did find at that time that my children were a chore, And I think for many who are still in active addiction, one of the fears for them is, they've already got to the point where, and not everybody, by the way, but, a lot of people that I've spoken to fear that they're never, ever going to get the trust and respect back from their children. The love is always there, but it's that trust and respect that can often be lost because when we're in active addiction, we sort of build trust when we're sort of drinking okayish at times, or when we're not turning into someone horrible to be around, and then our children kind of think, okay, do you know what, maybe our parents going to be okay, and then we just smash that trust, with a binge, or where we're drinking for ages and we can't see them, and then and then you go through a period of time where everything's okay, and you kind of build up that trust in your children again, and then you just smash that trust. And it was like that for me. I had periods of, I don't want to say controlled drinking, but it was drinking where it wasn't leading to me not seeing the children, but then as their hopes grew and thought, what, mum's actually okay, she's doing okay, I would go off and, go off on a binge that would, I call it a binge. I mean, that's not even the correct word. It would last like weeks, binges don't last weeks. And I wouldn't see them for like a month. I think the longest I didn't see them was for about 2 months, and as time went on, this constant cycle of building trust, smashing trust, building trust, led to them actually not trusting me at all. I'd completely sort of broken that away. And along with that, from speaking to my children now, I realised that they actually didn't respect me either. They loved me, the love didn't go away, but the trust and respect went away, and that is what a lot of, people that I speak to who are in active addiction, that's the one thing that they feel really guilty about, that eats away at them, the fact that their children don't want to be around them, their children have lost trust in them, their children have lost respect for them. And I just want to say to those of you, it does come back. It can come back. And I'm saying that from personal experience. Now, I can't talk for every single person in addiction, but I can talk from my own experience. And trust me, when I say my children didn't trust or love or respect me, they loved me but didn't respect me. It's true. You know, I let them down so much. My daughter said to me, like, she was just waiting for a phone call to say that I died, because, you know, she believed that I would never get better. I think for a long time they hoped, and she said to me, you know, every year on her birthday, that one wish before you blow those candles out would be that I hope mom gets better. And then it got to a stage where she said, I thought, that's it now, mom's never going to get better. You know, and I just said to her, like, your wishes came true, you know, because I am better. Of course, I've got to maintain this, you know, it doesn't come out of the sky. It's not magic. It's not gifted. It's a gift I have to give myself, and it's a gift that takes a lot of hard work to be consistent at. It takes a lot of dedication, takes a lot of commitment, takes a lot of discipline. But nonetheless, you know, as I remember coming out of rehab, and because my journey was through residential rehab, I went to a trauma-informed rehab, and initially my children were just like, when I told them, that's it, I don't drink anymore, you know, and they were like very skeptical, and rightly so, you know. I think after the first Christmas, they were kind of thinking, maybe, you know. After the first year, it was a bit like, oh my God, like, mum's gone a whole year without, you know, drinking, and she's seeing us consistently. And I'd started uni about, you know, I was well into uni by that point. But I think, if I'm going to be honest, about 2 years into my recovery, my children were just like, okay, you know, mum's better, mum's good. And it wasn't just because I wasn't drinking. They saw a change in me, you know. They saw a behavioural change. You know, my actions were different. The way I thought was different. The way I spoke was different. The way I was consistent. You know, I'd never been consistent my whole life, and all of a sudden they've got this mum who's consistent. You know, I was achieving. You know, 8 weeks after leaving rehab, I went back to uni. But I think one of the most important things that they saw was they felt valued. You know, and I didn't actually value my children until I went to rehab. I didn't actually learn the true value of my children until I went to rehab, because I was so unhealed. You know, I was consumed by the pain and the anger and the feelings around my, you know, around my traumas, and then I was consumed with the alcohol, and it was just there was no room for me to see them. You know, I couldn't see past this pain and anger and trauma and addiction and all of that. And in rehab, because I was actively working on, you know, my traumas, and which adversely had an effect on my, you know, sort of addiction, for the first time, you know, there was space for me to see my children, and I truly learnt the value of my children. And when I came out of rehab, you know, and as time went on, they felt, you know, that, oh my God, like, you know, I don't know, they just felt that they got their mum back. You know, they've never known me as a mum, but they've known me as a mum for the past nearly 4 years now. I'll be 4 years sober in April, you know, and I truly learnt the value of my children, and, you know, healing and sort of managing my addiction has made space for me to be the mum I've always wanted to be, you know, and just shower my children with love, affection, and also take accountability and responsibility for, you know, the way my, you know, the effect that my addiction, you know, the effect that my addiction had on them. But yeah, you know, it's been beautiful, really. And I took my daughter to Iceland last year, just me and my daughter. And I do a lot of things with the children individually as well, you know. And the beautiful thing is they trust me. They would never, ever have even gone with me to a day trip, you know, previously, because they would have just thought, okay, Mum's just going to drink. And, you know, all of a sudden I'm taking my children abroad and, you know, by myself and things like that. And it just goes to show you how things can change. And they change through, it doesn't happen, you know, you don't go from active addiction into active recovery and boom, that's it. You know, you get the trust back, you get the respect back in one day. It doesn't work like that. It's a slow process, you know, and every single day you're building a brick of trust, you know, and the more consistent you are, and the more they see that, actually mum's not drinking, or dad. I'm talking to dad, mums and dads here, but I guess I'm talking from mother perspective. They're not drinking, they're consistent, their behaviour's changing, that we actually feel valued, you know, they naturally, that trust starts to build. So yeah, you know, don't worry, you know, everything comes back to you. Everything comes back to you. Recovery is so worth it, you know, so many rewards. It's been a gift. And the most amazing thing is, it's a gift that I give to myself. Do you know what I mean? But it has a knock-on effect on everyone I love around me. And it's truly, truly beautiful. So keep going. Don't quit. And please don't think that you've lost everything. You gain so much more. You gain everything you thought you'd lost, and more on top of it when you enter recovery.